End of February, but it's nice to see you all again. The meeting slide link was in the email I sent, and I don't think we have access to the chat anymore. Is that true, David?
That is true.
Yeah. So sorry to make that difficult, but if you if you have access to the slide deck and you can access this links page, you have the equity screening tool and the feedback survey, the new volunteer survey. It's all in there. And then on the second page is this Q&A. So as we're presenting and talking things through, if you have a thought and you want to bring it up, please do. This is an informal bunch. As you all know, feel free to come off mute, raise your hand, speak up at any point. But if you just have something that you want to flag or bring attention to, kind of on the down low, there's this Q&A slide. So you can always type your questions in there, or even just statements, any kind of input you want to add. So with that, welcome. Spring is around the corner, and there is a link. Again, I guess we can't put links. At the bottom of, if you have this presentation open, in the bottom, there's a link to a survey. And David, that's the one for the volunteers, right?
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay, so in the notes section of this welcome slide is a link for volunteers. So as we are just at some point during this presentation or soon after, if you have, if you'd like to continue to help with this this plan finalization and engagement, there's an opportunity to fill out a quick survey. All right, so today we are introducing the plan. Hey, Joe. Hey, Jeff. It's good to see you guys. Happy New Year. All right, so we're going to be going through a number of things today, but the first one's going to be the partner updates. We want to hear from you. It's been a while. I know everyone has something to share. It can be a win in the area of equitable climate action. And resilience. It can be something that you're working on that you want to let us know about, something you heard about, whatever that is. We want to hear from you, and then we'll go through. We'll review where we've been. We'll present the draft plan. Introduce you to what that looks like, and then there'll be space to discuss it with you, with talking about engagement and advocacy and what comes next, and of course looking forward to your input and assistance on that April engagement plan. So the objectives today for today's meeting. Hey, Michael, good to see you. We're going to review and discuss where we are in this planning process, get everyone back up to speed, provide an orientation to the document itself, particularly the buildings and energy pathway. We would love to make sure that it represents your work, and then look forward to that community-wide engagement in later this spring, with the approval and adoption in summer and early fall. So we'll be thinking about, what can we be doing as a collective, and how can we continue to advocate towards plan adoption, and then of course strategy implementation. That's what we're all excited about. All right, so we've been through our ground rules. Great group. So I don't need to review them, but we're very respectful. Everyone comes here with great ideas, different perspectives. We want to hear them all. You represent a lot of expertise and lived experiences, so please feel free to speak up at any time. And now we want to hear from you. So you can either speak out loud, or you can go into this slide deck and just type on those sticky notes yourself. But we want to hear what you've been up to. So feel free to come off mute. I know you've all been busy since November.
So 3 members of the VCU community and I wrote up a climate emergency declaration, which was adopted by a vote of something like 94-3 by the VCU Faculty Senate. We also made a petition with the same language to be signed by any members of the community, faculty, staff, students, alumni. And we emailed the president, Mike Rao, with the information, urging him to declare a climate emergency. And by the way, we cited the City of Richmond's climate emergency declaration as well. And he had a very nice reply. He's really glad that we're taking on this important issue, and he looks forward to our sustainability plan, which is kicking off in a week, and kind of skirted the issue, but kind of said that a declaration could be part of that plan.
That's fantastic. Yeah, congratulations. I don't know if that's something if it's a document that you could email me or share, because I'd love to make sure that we're in alignment as we move towards implementation.
Yeah, I'm happy to share it with you, Dawn.
Great, thank you. Excellent.
And I guess I should also mention that, maybe just another sentence about this kickoff meeting, I think on the 23rd, to begin writing the VCU sustainability plan for the next 5 years, which is really a climate plan. It's sustainability, it's the broader topic, but, climate, mitigating climate damage has become the overwhelming part of that. So we have an outside firm hired, and we hope to have a 5-year plan, and hopefully that will include getting to neutral by 2030. But I mean that's hopeful, but it'll be hard, and so I can report in future about how that is going.
Fantastic. Excellent news. Thank you so much for sharing.
I'll jump in. This is Andrew from Veridient. I'm going to talk about home energy audits, no surprise. And just some stats from 2021. We did some 145 energy audits in the region in 2021. Using a rebate, our average customer is saving $156 a year from that.
Nice.
After a $45 investment, and that's based on saving 1.3 megawatt hours a year in energy. So collectively, just our audits in 2021 are saving the region 176 megawatt hours per year. Get yours now. I don't know how else to say it. We have raised our prices, I'll let you know, to a whopping $65 for a professional inspection of your home to find you will be surprised at where the opportunities lay, I guarantee you. And would love folks' help circulating this information to the VCU community, to the city community, to everyone else. This is an extraordinary opportunity that is out there right now. For folks where $65 may be a problem, if anyone who earns less than 80% of the state median income, a household, qualifies for not only inspection, but massive upgrades from utility and other programs. So there is help out there right now. I know I'm a broken record on this, but we should be doing this as fast as we possibly can, because it's a solution available right this second. Yeah, that's the news here.
Great. Thank you so much, Andrew. Really important message.
I will follow up on Andrew's real quick, and it's personal between me and him, because I'm currently signing up for my home energy audit registration form that my wife and I have been talking about the need to do. And I must say, Andrew, your website and your form is super easy, and I encourage everybody to do it, because I thought with like hiring a contractor in the future to do work, where the heck do I even start? And you're going to tell me, and I'll
For
listen.
$65, you get, here's where to start, here's what to do. We look at insulation, HVAC, and I don't sell heat pumps. I don't sell the solar panels. I don't, I am technology neutral. We work for the client, and we also spell out your home's pathway to net zero. I mean,
Cool.
It's,
I like this public service announcement.
yeah. We're a 501c3 nonprofit just trying to fight climate change house by house.
Awesome. Thank you, Andrew. All right. Anyone else have some great information to share? All right. Well, please put them in the partner updates screen. I'll go ahead and move into what's next. So as you know, we have gone through a long process of plan development, and I know that STAR has kind of been at the end of that for a long time, but we're there. We are there. We're providing you with the draft plan today, and then we'll be moving into the adoption and implementation phase next. So more specifically, in April, we're going to launch our community-wide engagement, working towards advocacy and building those implementation teams, and then finalizing that plan content after we've gotten the final reviews. And then in the summer and fall, later this summer, we'll be presenting to council for adoption. So that's where we are. During that phase specifically, you can see under those purple circles, we have community feedback on the plan. We have submitting, before it goes to adoption, we're showing the CAO and the mayor, the city council, getting that ahead of time so there are no surprises at the end. And then very quickly implementation. And as you know, a lot of these strategies are already in the works. We're just excited to get that stamp of approval so we can really get moving on and make a lot of progress. So that's where we are in terms of the timeline. But let me move on to what you're here for today, the action plan. So it is a PDF document right now. Brianne and David are working with some consultants to create that awesome interactive and accessible website that's going to be the same information, but a little more tangible through an interactive website. But this is all the content into a plan. It is 178 pages, but that's because it's a lot of information that's going to be useful for grant writing and documenting how we did this and lessons learned and all that good stuff. So this is the table of contents. It opens with just a lot of the background on how we got here, what the planning process looked like, what's the background in Richmond, what do climate impacts look like today in Richmond. And then really the sections, the strategies begin with section 7, what we're calling the Richmond 2030 Climate Equity Action Plan. And so your pathway is the first one. Then it goes through the other 4. And then I'll be sharing these new sections with you today as well. The accountability, shared accountability framework, and this section, acting on our shared responsibility, that's showing anyone how everyone can take a part in this, no matter if they represent some big organization or just themselves. And then, of course, lots of appendices, making sure that we include all the great work that went into this plan. So our team has been developing this content since Thanksgiving, and then in the last month, we've had a graphic designer putting it together. So mostly it's been us generating that draft content based on all of your great input. And as you know, it's been a long, very iterative process with a lot of engagement, a lot of opportunities. So this represents, you know, hundreds of individuals investing thousands of hours. And we feel like it's a really good representation of the collective. Just to remind you, since it's been a while, the buildings and energy objectives, there are 4 of them, and this is what it's going to look like deeper into the plan. You'll have the objective and then the strategies underneath. So just kind of bringing you back to this pathway. We have these 4 objectives. And then I'm going to show you what these pages look like. So this is the guide to the 2030 action plan, this page. And I know it looks busy, but let's see, can you see my cursor if I do this? Okay, yeah. So these 2 pages are what we're looking at, and underneath it is the key to what all those elements are. So you'll have for every objective, we have the outcomes, and we came up with those from the impact mapping activity that you guys loved so much last summer. As all the pathways went through all those impacts, we were able to then kind of bubble up what we see as reoccurring themes. There are 12 of them. So there are 12 outcomes that Richmonders want to see as a result of a successful implementation of this plan. So those are advanced green economy, cleaner and more efficient buildings, cleaner and more efficient transportation, climate-ready community, engaged and involved community, improved air quality, increased flood resilience, heat resilience, support for climate action and resilience, less landfill waste, lower greenhouse gas emissions, and more green space and trees. So on this page, the objective, we've identified which outcomes that objective will lead to. So that's what that means. And then, like I showed you on the previous slide, the strategies are listed under the outcome. This page is the really important one. This is your work. So every strategy has its own page in this document. That's why it's so long, because we have 49 strategies. And so under each strategy, we have the context. At the November meeting, you'll remember you guys, we did that that city council mock public comment period, and all of that, why this is so important now. Context is summarized here in this language for people who might not be quite as familiar with these strategies and why they're important. Each of the actions is listed underneath, and then there's a status, the city steward or department that is championing this action item. The cost has a range that's listed down at the bottom, and the time, it's kind of broken up into 2 chunks between now and 2030. We have the near term and the far term, so things that need to be implemented in the next 3 years, and then the things that probably won't be implemented, budgeted for and implemented until 26 to 30. And then we have those other 3 columns on the impacts towards greenhouse gas reductions, resilience, and equity, the community priorities. So I know it's a really busy page, but this is the key to all of the elements. And just dialing in a little more. So the page looks like this with the buildings and energy, pathway, and then the tagline that you've seen over and over, and then each of the objectives. And then the next page is the one I walked you through before with the outcomes and the strategies listed underneath. And then, of course, the strategy page. So let me pause there and just let you soak that in and ask if you have any questions. Each strategy has its own page, like I said, in the context that you helped us write. people can flip back to the guide if they want to look at that key. The web version of this will be more accessible. Hopefully we can kind of hover over some words that might have some definitions and some hyperlinks. So this is as detailed as the strategies get within the plan, just so you know, and all of that additional work that we did in those activity sheets with the equitable next steps and the funding and financing brainstorms and brainstorming the implementation partners, that's what's going to be held. And then the city steward will be using worksheets with all of that information as we get through implementation. So all that back-end work, this document would be 1,000 pages if we included everything that you guys have done to this point. So that is really important information that's being held. We'll have a worksheet in the appendix and all the documentation on how we did the impact mapping and the funding and financing mapping and the prioritization matrix, all those great tools and activities. But in terms of the strategy page itself, this is what it looks like. So does anyone have any questions on this page?
Could I ask one real quick? I see on your cost, I love it. It's reminiscent of looking on restaurant reviews for where to go for dinner. And it gives you real quick information so that you can weigh the cost versus the potential benefit. Is there a hidden column somewhere that has an anticipated rough cost and how that number was arrived to, or is that going to be part of the implementation process?
Excellent question. So that is definitely part of the implementation process. What this number represents is some research that some different volunteers and interns have done on how much these things have. Now, let me take a step back. Last summer, when we did the funding and financing mapping, we did identify whether they were capital intensive or programmatic. So if they were just program, like it's just takes staff and maybe some time, then it's a $1 sign basically. But this is compounded costs between now and 2030. It's not annual. It's not based on this is going to cost 1 million this year. If it's something that's going to, and that's why it got so high, because really if you're thinking about a person's salary or a team's costs, then it's over a number of years. So these are nothing has been, these aren't numbers that are ready to go out for bid, but they're ballpark numbers based on our own research, seeing how much other cities have spent, and then your input and feedback in the working groups.
Thank you for saying what other cities have spent. We don't want to reinvent anything. If we can just steal it from somebody else and do it at that cost, we appreciate it.
So much of this work is built on best practices from other cities. That's really the foundation of our office's research.
And if something that can be a portion of that next step of putting a little more meat on the bone and outlining that cost is creating a list of cooperative agreements at the state level or other localities. So you got a folder. So when I need to go to Betty Burrell saying, hey, I need to buy these professional services, we don't have to RFP it. We just say, and Dinwiddie County did it. And we're gonna, use that same service. That would be incredibly appreciated.
Yeah, that's a great point. David or Brian, could you make a note of that somewhere?
Yes, I'm taking notes.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm trying to.
One thing related to that very point is, in as much as this is a communication tool, and we're indicating that things have cost, I see in the text at the top that says there are savings. And this may be late in the game, but just something to think about. We need to highlight the savings, because that's the good news. And, for example, LED streetlights, I mean, it's savings. So as well as, basic efficiency in the majority of existing municipal buildings, at least the ones I've been in. So Yeah, just wanted to flag that. You know, if it has $2 signs on the cost, how many dollar signs go in the, you know, operational savings column?
Yeah, that's a great point.
Anticipated ROI, you know, overcoming the cost. You know, if you say, hey, this pays for itself in 2 years and is, you know, net positive budget wise. Hey, we've just freed up a bunch of money on Green Team to pay for other things that Green Team thinks we need to do. That's how you get those wins coming through.
Yes.
When
You
you're,
know,
when you're up there at the dais.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And thank you for bringing these points up, because way back when, during the prioritization matrix, that, you know, feasibility and economic opportunity and cost savings, the ROI, that was considered in prioritizing the strategy. So the ones that were elevated, you know, that did have some savings were brought up, but then we didn't necessarily make sure to repeat or, you know, reintroduce that at this stage. Good point. Anything else on this page? Okay, and you'll all have a chance to go through these. We're going to send a link to the Conveyo document out afterwards, so you can take a little more time to look through it if you'd like. Okay, so then I'm going to talk about this accountability and measuring progress. You know, all along. So, of course, the big push was to come up with the strategies, but just as or more important is how are we actually going to be accountable to this? This is not a document that's going to sit on a shelf. This is something that needs to be used. That's been the you know, highest, most important feature of this whole plan. So I listed all those outcomes. These, you know, these are the 12 outcomes. There are two, oh, sorry. Yeah, there are 12 outcomes on these two tables. The second column is the indicator. So we went through all those metrics. These are all the results of lots of conversations, lots of working group meetings, lots of researching best practices, lots of looking at our climate equity index, what data we and other, you know, city departments already have access to, thinking about the indicators that will most likely represent the best indicators to showcase the success of these outcomes. So, for example, under advanced green economy, how do you indicate success of an advanced green economy? Well, after lots and lots of conversations and research and back and forth, we landed on the number and percent of green jobs. And then there's an equitable one, which is the number of residents completing training, education, and apprenticeship programs related to climate action and resilience by race and ethnicity. So every outcome has two indicators. One is a general indicator that we're a little more traditional. And then the second one is equity based to make sure that we are centering equity in all of these outcomes. And then the data source and notes are over in the third column. So this is new to you. This is these are the indicators and data sources that we're going to be measuring each year with the plan. The timelines are still kind of being worked out. Brianne, did you want to say anything to this? I know you've been working really hard on this piece of it.
No, the only thing I'll add is it's not completely new. You know, this is all from conversations and work that you all have done. And then on our end, we are working out, you know, how often do we report on all of these? Because some of these will take, you know, more than a year to see movement that is significant to report on. So we'll report on some of these annually, some of these biannually, but overall we'll be constantly checking to make sure that these indicators are meaningful to experts and the community. So this is all draft and iterative.
Any questions on this piece of it? I remember us having this working group having some dialogue about this back in November. So I just want to make sure that y'all are good with this. For buildings and energy, the total building energy use in Richmond, and then the percentage of households with high energy burden by race and ethnicity. And I'm seeing here we have Dominion, but I guess City of Richmond is going to be the natural gas, right, Brian? Or is this supposed to be electricity? No, it's total energy. So we need another data source here. Okay, so those are the indicators. And then the next piece is the shared accountability framework. So the roundtable worked on this in November and December to develop a tool that is designed to answer who is responsible for what, and being really clear about the actors and being very transparent, showing which piece is going to, or publicly communicating our goals and plans and outcomes, but also identifying everything up front about who you could go to for which piece of the puzzle. This is based on, committing to, like we said, the regular evaluation, the culture of improvement, receiving that feedback and revising as we go, as we've done all along, building those trusting relationships. And then, of course, it's very important to institutionalize sustainability as we move forward. We spent a lot of time looking at other city plans, looking at the mayoral priorities, looking at other institutions, which is why I want to see what VCU is doing, making sure that we're all really partners in this. And we are institutionalizing this language as an organizational backbone in all of our decision making. So this framework I'm about to show you answers the questions: are we on track toward equitable implementation of the plan, and who is responsible for what? The entire Richmond community, not just the city, not just the working groups, everyone plays a part in this shared plan. So this is kind of the wheel that breaks the process down to identify who's responsible for which step and what they'll be doing. Each of these 5 components of the circle are the guiding commitments of the shared accountability framework. So like I said, regular evaluation, transparency, culture of improvement, trusting relationships, institutionalizing sustainability, and city government. All of these things are essential to an effective and successful plan. And then each stakeholder that I'm about to show you plays a role in ensuring that each of those commitments is upheld. For example, the community can hold the stakeholders accountable and ask where the details are under each of the commitments once we have this laid out. So the first one is the Office of Sustainability. And if you hadn't heard, as of this coming July, we are finally an official permanent department within the city. We've been a program under the operations portfolio or a project, yes, but now we are, it was this office was founded 10 years ago, but now we'll really be kind of up front and center, and that's part of institutionalizing sustainability. And so that's a great step in the right direction. And so our office in particular will be the primary convener, providing support to the city and the community leaders. We'll continue to champion the plan with all of our internal and external actors. And then the implementation teams, are the groups of stakeholders and city departments. Hopefully those of you who want to continue on these teams to help implement the strategies. This is, kind of the what that the implementation teams will be doing. The Racial Equity and Environmental Justice Roundtable that we have had from the beginning will continue to stay on. And just to remind you, that's our 10-member group of residents who are paid for their time and lived experience. They're providing a lot of valuable information and review of this content to make sure that this is this is very representative of the community, centering equity in everything we do. So that's what they will continue to be responsible for on this box. And then we have the mayor and chief administrative officer and the pieces that they will be responsible for with the annual reporting and the annual updates, ensuring that we have dedicated and consistent city funding for implementation, and city council, of course, and their role. The planning commission, that's an important one. We're going to be having, so this plan, this 2030 action plan is going to be adopted into Richmond 300. Is that the right language, Brianne?
Yes, I think technically it'd be an amendment to adopt it into the Richmond 300 master plan.
Yes. So that's really important because that just gives it, you know, extra institutionalization. From day one, we have, you know, been aligning our work with Richmond 300. So that makes a lot of sense. And let's see, what else do we have? The Green Cities, they'll play a role in elevating the importance of this work and prioritizing their projects for the year. So with the city staff and leadership review in March, we'll be presenting a draft to the mayor's office, the CAO, and city council for early review. You know, the lesson learned from Richmond 300 was that city council had some amendments after the fact. We want to make sure that all of this is brought up early and everyone has an opportunity to identify something that needs to be made stronger, so that we're ready to go when it gets in front of city council for adoption. All right, so that is what the shared accountability framework looks like. Any questions on that? Okay. All right, and then the last piece is just the appendices, and that's where we're going to have the definitions and the acronyms, the strategy implementation guide and template worksheet that I described, the full list of the strategies prior to the prioritization process when we had 188, and we said these are not going to be discarded, they will be kept and tracked, and you know, in future plans we'll be referring back to that. So that'll be in the appendix. The climate vulnerability and risk assessment will be back there. Greenhouse gas emissions inventory, the detailed methodologies for each of the content areas. The city council resolutions will be in here, the net zero resolution and the climate emergency resolution. And then all of the community engagement and outreach process detail. We've learned so much from this this process. We want to make sure that it is documented for future plans, future city planning purposes. And of course, the greenhouse gas emissions modeling and how that was developed. An equity assessment, equity screening tool. There are lots of appendices. So that'll all be in there. And that's kind of a rundown of the plan. Any questions at that point based on what I've presented? Okay.
No questions.
Hey,
Nope.
Dawn.
Yes.
Hey, this is Joe. Yeah, I heard you say earlier you're going to send out a link for this.
Yes.
Okay. I want to share this internally with some folks here.
Okay, yeah, after the meeting today, there will be a link, and it's a Conveo document, so you can put your comments in there. I think we'll have it open for a couple weeks, and you know, would love to make sure that your input is incorporated. But between now and plan adoption, it's going to be an evolving process. We want to make sure that that everyone who wants to get their eyes on this and provide input has that chance before it's finalized. So what's next is that we're going to have the working groups and roundtable review between now and February 18th. The questions you want to ask yourself, you know, does this reflect your work? Is there something, I think these comments today were really helpful. Is there something that might make it a little stronger? Do you feel ownership, particularly of the content in Buildings and Energy Pathway? If we don't hear from you, we're going to assume that it's everything you thought it would be and more. And then, like I said, later this month and early March, it'll go through city staff and leadership for review. And then mid-March and early April, we will be preparing the document for community-wide engagement. And so, let's see. Yes. So we want to make sure that you all have your a chance for your review first before it goes out to the community. But let me tell you what that looks like for now. So the community-wide engagement and beyond, we're thinking of it as kind of a kickoff. It's not necessarily, an open and shut, because what we need to have happen now is raising, climate literacy. We want every single person in Richmond to know that this plan exists, and that it relates to every single person. It's not just for the environmentalists. This is really addressing all of the community priorities and every single Richmonder. So, we're not seeking new strategies. We are looking to bring what we heard back to the community, improve climate literacy, like I said, build support for adoption. We really want constituents to say, yes, this is important. We want the reach to extend so that more people are aware of it, more people want to get behind it. And then, of course, any new ideas, because that's usually what happens when you bring a plan like this to the community. They start having more ideas, more details about how to get things done. That's implementation. So we definitely want that input so we can add it to those activity sheets and all the great ideas and all the research, and we're collecting that huge database. So those are the goals for community engagement. For a discussion now, I would love to hear your general reflections and thoughts and ideas on engagement. How have you been engaging the community recently? How have you seen it as effective? In this world of COVID and where we are today, what have you seen as the most effective forms of engagement? We're not traditionalists here. We really just want to be effective. How can we align, or what can we align with? Can you think of things going on in April and May that we could align this outreach with? Let's see, like I said, where should we put our energy with an eye toward advocacy for adoption? And then can you anticipate any potential hurdles or blind spots that we might want to think about in advance, because we want this to be smooth and successful? And what questions or information would you like us to ask and promote to engage? We don't just want this to be an information sharing session. We really want a two-way conversation. So are there questions you think we should be asking the community to improve that, successful engagement? So I would love to hear your thoughts if you want to come off mute and tell me what you're thinking. Help you think a little more deeply. We really want to bring in new voices and get general buy-in to let them know that this is what we heard, and we want to make sure that the plan reflects that.
In my work, I interact with folks in the region on a daily basis who are not necessarily engaged in this, and I'd be happy to share information about this to city residents, who are about half of my clients. And just a quick thought, one of the things sort of that went through my mind as you're showing the accountability framework is the word's empowerment. The degree to that actors are empowered to further these goals, and there's one bullet there is ensure dedicated and consistent funding. And maybe that's all that needs to be said. And, under mayor and CAO, ensure overall accountability. So that should provide the clear directive to, the city government But maybe that element of empowerment is something to, make sure people know how to act and how to contribute. Maybe that was brought up elsewhere, but certainly for community partners, whether it's the general public, whether it's big business, whether it's VCU and Virginia Union and U of R, just people need to feel empowered, if nothing else.
Excellent. Great point. Thank you. So what do you guys think? Speechless?
Well, it's a beautiful looking document, and I love the organization. The only complaint is the font is a little too small to read on my screen. So I look forward to seeing the draft and actually reading it, and I'm happy to give you some feedback once that happens.
Wonderful. Thank you for saying that, Michael. It's funny because, yeah, you're seeing it on a tiny screen right now, but one of the reasons it's so long is that the graphic designer was very intentional about, making sure we had lots of white space and graphics and the font sizes and the colors. So I hope that you're pleased with the result when you get a chance to look at it a little more deeply.
To that point real quick, I think we all might be a little, when it comes to those symbols of what areas they impact and things like that, we're all in that world. We've all helped develop the plan. So we might be able to see that and go, okay, that's, civil building related or whatever it might be. Is the digital two things? Is the digital version going to have some kind of hover? So if I hover over that icon, it tells me in the full what that icon represents when you have your matrix?
Yeah, Brianne, if you want to speak to the digital a little more deeply.
Yeah, so that's an awesome idea. And I kind of had the same thought because we do have Dawn shared the, I forget what we're calling it, but guide to the strategy pages, which has what each symbol means. If this were a paper document, which it won't be, most likely, it'd be a lot of flipping back and forth to remember, okay, what does this little, house mean? I think we have a couple of options for the digital PDF version to make this easier on people, like maybe a floating key or something like that. Like you can always bring up this key to what things mean on the PDF document online. I am sure that technology exists. And then on the actual, simultaneously, we are building an interactive web-based portal to the plan. So it will be a tool that is much more user-friendly, so you can get directly to the content that is important to you based on the 12 outcomes. So you can go and say, okay, I care about air quality. Click on that and it will pop up with, here they are the objectives of the plan that support air quality. Click here to read this objective. Here are the indicators we're using to measure air quality. Click here for more, that kind of thing. So hopefully but I love the idea of having the document itself be more navigable or whatever, as far as the symbols. So I will look into that.
And as far as that page flipping thing goes, because we'd want to minimize paper copies, but we're going to give a paper copy to the mayor, to the CAO, to council members and their liaisons, I would imagine. And if we can minimize the number of those and at cost, if part of that first page is a little perforated index that you can just rip out to use as a bookmark to sit there and go, okay, cool. Capitol building means, the capital symbol means city building. That might be beneficial to the folks who get a hard copy are the most important folks to implementing these things. So we want to make it as usable as possible for them.
Great idea.
I like it.
Don't give me a hard copy. I don't.
These are all great ideas. Any other thoughts or feedback?
Well, it's very green to have the digital format, but bear in mind some of the low-income community is not tech savvy. Some of them don't have internet access and computer access, so I'm not sure how they're going to see this.
And I will piggyback on that if I may. You know, I've been reading here this ESG definition, and if I could do it out loud, sustainable, ethical, and corporate governance issues such as managing a company's carbon footprint and ensuring there are systems in place to ensure accountability. Now that's language for the private sector. And for what we're doing with the municipality, I would add to just think about it, to use the same language and the same ideals, because I think this ESG is going to govern a lot of the people who are going to read this, like these hard copy reader people. You know what I mean? They're going to be seeing this ESG in other facets of their work. And so also from Andrew's point, most of my clientele are, you know, average to low income earners. And if we could get something in there that really kind of flavors ethical and equitable, you know, gains from the outcome here, you know, I didn't get that feel as we read through it. You know what I mean? So I'm just throwing it out there to see what everybody else would think.
Yeah, that's really good food for thought. We'll be talking about that within our team. So if anyone else has any ideas that you'd like to throw out, we'd love to hear them. But that's a great reflection. That's why these working groups are so vital, because they bring so many different perspectives. And we've seen this. I mean, we're in the weeds of this. So taking a fresh perspective, a fresh look at it through your eyes is really helpful. All right, well, we're going to end it early today. Unless you have, we'll be on here for discussion if anyone does want to stay on and talk more about this. But the next steps, like I said, early April, we'll have one more kind of all hands on deck working group meeting before we share to share the community engagement information and kind of a final ask for help. But we're developing that plan now. So if you would like to be part of the engagement process and you have some or you would just have ideas, please fill out the volunteer survey link. If you have this open, the link is accessible in here. It's hyperlinked. We'll also be following up with an email that's going to link to the Conveyo document and the survey there. So like we said, mid-April through mid-May is the launch of that community engagement period. And then in June, we'll have a final meeting to discuss all of that community input and the advocacy for the plan adoption and looking forward to implementation. So really, we're at the end here. Have appreciated, you just have no idea how vital and important your donation of your time has been to this collective process. So thank you so much. So now that they'll just give you some extra time to fill out that survey for volunteering, and if anyone has any other updates that you'd like to share, or you know, some upcoming events that we should be made aware of, or resources you're familiar with that we should be familiar with as well, please speak up. Otherwise, I will bid you adieu and have a great day.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Great work.
Thank you.
I'm going to stop the recording.
Okay.